I have been on a big Dino binge recently here, playing a bunch of different decks involving dinosaur monsters, of course. We've got this one today. We're going to have another one over the next couple of days as well. But dinosaurs are feeling a lot better right now because of the fact that Kashtira isn't quite as omnipotent as it was the last time I tried making content on dinos. Last time I tried making content on dinos, Kashtira made it super difficult. But now we're in a position where dinos actually has decent matchups against a lot of the top tier decks. So it's time to use some dinos, and today we're going to be using DINOMORPHIA, LABRYNTH. Now, why exactly do these decks mix? And they mix really fucking well. Well, I mean, for the obvious reasons, right? DINOMORPHIA loves to use trap cards. All of their combos are started by normal traps. But not only that, some of the best tech cards that work alongside DINOMORPHIA are also normal traps. Look at Ferret Flames. And another really cool addition that we're using here today is Soul of the Supreme King. Another card basically lowering down your life points as much as possible, summoning out some super ridiculously powerful dragons from your extra deck as well. So there really is a lot going on here, and that helps sort of speed up or make the Labyrinth strategy more aggressive, but it also helps it sort of sustain through hand traps and such, because if they ash like a big welcome or a welcome or something like that, whatever it is, well, you're not being stopped from going into the likes of, well, regular welcome does stop you, that's why we're only playing one of it. But if they were to like ash or interrupt your big welcome plays, then you still have your frenzy, right? You still have your domain, you still have all of these other cards you can go into that's going to grant you shitloads of advantage. And I really do think that these two decks in particular interact in some really cool ways. One of the primary benefits for DINOMORPHIA that Labyrinth brings to the table is, of course, the consistency of setting out the trap cards, and the fact that lovely Labyrinth protects your frenzy from being hit by any monster effects, which is huge. So lovely Labyrinth adds a lot to frenzy in particular, which is really good, as well as domain and frenzy, both of which are buffed massively by having lovely in the field, which is awesome. And of course, Lady is setting these cards directly from the deck, as well as your additional traps like Ferret Flames and Soul of the Supreme King. Now, what does DINOMORPHIA bring the Labyrinth? Well, DINOMORPHIA brings the Labyrinth a whole new branch of control in the form of Rexsturm, one of the most powerful dinosaur boss monsters in the entire game. One of the most powerful boss monsters in Yu-Gi-Oh! I think this card is very underrated. And maybe he's not, maybe he's just not in the public scope enough, but this card's really fucking strong. Basically, your opponent cannot activate the effects of monsters who have more attack points than you have life points, and your life points are consistently going to be at 1,000 or lower. So it locks out most of the game from using their monster effects, which is fucking sick. So Rexsturm's really good. So DINOMORPHIA brings that to the table when it comes to helping out Labyrinth, but also the fact that Frenzy and Domain are super powerful one-card starters means that you're not as susceptible to dying to like a single Ash Blossom, right? Whereas before, if you have a maybe not the greatest hand in the world, your opponent activates one Ash and your big welcome, bang, you're done. Finish, finito. You're not playing the game anymore. That's it, game over. Whereas now you've got a whole new branch of plays you can go into. Even if your big welcome doesn't resolve successfully, you still have your frenzy, you still have your domain, you still have all of these other plays. And another thing they also do is deck devastation virus, and basically whatever virus cards you're a fan of. I picked this one, but you could play Eradicator, you could play whatever, right? The DINOMORPHIA cards putting out Kentragina and all of these other dinos on board that have high attack points and they're dark monsters means that you have additional tribute targets for the likes of your virus cards, which actually does come up in the gameplay quite a bit. So I'm a big fan of deck devastation virus. In particular, you can play Eradicator, you can play whatever the fuck you want, right? I just like this one. Yeah, there's just some really good synergy. So I'm going to go through the deck in more detail at the end of the video, and I'll go through card for card for people who aren't familiar with how the deck works. I will do it one thing at a time. So if you're interested in this style of content, we upload every single day as best we can. So you can subscribe to catch more videos as they come out. Every little bit of support is greatly appreciated. You can like the video as well. And if you've been watching for a long time, or maybe you're sort of new and you just want to show that additional bit of support, if you really want to help us build the channel up as much as we can, you can of course join us as a member by using the join button down below or the link in the description. Either way, I'm not going to take up too much time here. Let's get into the gameplay. Alright, time for a match between Labyrinth Dogmatica and Labyrinth DINOMORPHIA. We're going to start here pretty tame. We're not going too over the top here, but our opening hand is fucking bonkers, right? This is a good hand. It doesn't matter how you cut it, right? So we're going to get into our opponent's turn here. Of course, they're going to go main phase 1. They're going Nadir's Servant. Very interesting. Grabbing the Ecclesia directly from deck to hand. Going to use the Intis now to pop a card in the field. They're going to pop the Diplos. That's totally fine. I'm going to go Big Welcome here to try and protect my Diplos, just in case I end up needing it later in the duel just for its name. But we get hit with the Ash Blossom there. That's okay, though. That frees up our DINOMORPHIA Frenzy. Now that I've used Ash Blossom on the Big Welcome, that means we're no longer worried about him using Ash Blossom on our Frenzy. That's part of the synergy. Love it. We're going to bring out the Converged. Converged then, of course, is going to use its effect again to use the Frenzy from the graveyard. Diplos activating too, whatever. Now, this is interesting here. We actually get hit with Gamma. We no longer have any monsters on our opponent's field. They're going to go Gamma, so we're going to do the smart thing. We're going to flip up Deck Devastation Virus, tributing Converged. Like anything with 1500 attack or less in his hands going to be destroyed, including the Gamma, which means no special summon, no Ecclesia, no nothing, no hoes, no bitches. Get the fuck out of my game. We're going to go Rex Term now. Rex Term coming out, floodgating the field. That means even if he summons a monster as 2,000 or more attack points, he cannot activate its effects. We're going to set Frenzy to the field directly from the deck as well. Special summoning out the lady in defense and passing back to us. Perfect. So now coming back around to our turn here, we're going to draw in the Soul of the Supreme King. That's pretty neat. Set 2, we're going to attack with D-Barrier. He flipped D-Barrier, right? Because he thought he was going to be able to use Lady's effect to set another trap card to the field for him to use it next turn. Unfortunately, Rex Term did not allow it. Our opponent did not read. No D-Barrier for you. And they're going to simply, again, take these. They're just catching blows, right? We're whittling them down. Over time, they're going to top deck into Maxi. I don't fucking think so. Get that shit out of here. Maxi is gone. Maxi explodes. Nadir's Servant, though, really good card. We knew he had it in hand from earlier on. We're going to go Ecclesia here, sending another Intis then. Intis attempting to pop our Rex Term. We're going to flip up Big Welcome yet again. We're going to summon out lovely Labyrinth with the Silver Castle here to protect our other trap cards, shuffling back, of course, the Rex Term that would have been destroyed. Now we're going to use the lovely Labyrinth. We're going to pop the remaining card in his hand. Frenzy then, activating, paying another bounce, and summoning out Rex Term again. It's like nothing ever happened. End phase. Deck Devastation Virus still in effect. Our opponent's got 6,000 life. We've got 7,900 damage on board. It is simply game over. 3k, 2k, 29, lethal. What a game. It was a bit of a wild one, it really was. Deck Devastation Virus is really fucking strong in a lot of matchups right now. It crushes most Sprite matchups. It crushes a lot of Labyrinth plays as well. Popping the clocks, popping the furniture, popping the Ecclesia, popping the hand traps. Like, there's a lot of things in Labyrinth that it also helps him with that little mirror match in particular. There's a lot of like niche little things here and there as well. One of the primary benefits of Deck Devastation Virus, honestly, is the fact that it blows up Maxi, it blows up Ash Blossom, it destroys these hand traps. So if you're able to use Deck Devastation Virus before activating something like your Frenzy or your Big Welcome, that means you're able to clear Ash out of your opponent's hand if they haven't used it yet for whatever reason. So there's a lot of useful use there of the Deck Devastation Virus. And again, you're seeing the constant bouncing, the fact we're able to go into our Frenzy very easily, bouncing cards back, protecting our cards with lovely. It's just really fucking good. It's just really good. Let's get into game 2. Alright, getting into game 2 here, we're going to start off going second, using our Maxi to try and net ourselves some advantage over our opponent, playing Heroes. This one is a bit weird, right? This guy lets us draw a million cards, right? So this is by no means an objective showcase of how good the deck is, right? It's a showcase of how good Maxi is. However, this guy makes us fucking fight for this win. It was a fantastic matchup. So we're going to speed things up here. He's just doing some standard hero shenanigans. Again, I don't want to annotate over every single play because we're going to be here all fucking year. We do use Ash Blossom to stop the Poly Search. I think the Poly Search is a pretty big part of their combo here, so stopping that's pretty huge. We are going to go for the Coup Clock here, so now we can use our furniture. Dropping 2, we're going to set Big Welcome to the field. Coup Clock coming back to the field. Now we're going to use Big Welcome. My plan here is that, again, we're trying to... because we don't have that many like hand traps or anything in our deck, what we're trying to do is we're trying to hit the most important choke points, and right now the Cross Crusader is a pretty decent choke point. The only way in which it's not is if he plays a second one, right? Who plays 2 Cross Crusader Oh, this guy does. Okay, fair enough. To be fair, so yeah, maybe it's standard. I don't know. Cross Crusader then, tributing off the melee. Again, it does force him to use his resources in a very different way. He does end up grabbing Poly because Vion is not once per turn, apparently. That is totally fine. We're going to go Sunrise then. Sunrise searching the deck for Super Poly, and Liquid Soldier allowing to draw 2. Shadow Mist going to grab the Plasma. Royal Plasma, by the way. Again, a lot of things happening on screen right now. You don't need to fully understand all of them. This is a hero player, a hero deck. If you don't understand hero plays, this is a very standard sort of combo line. You can check out one of my videos on it. You can check out somebody else's videos on it. The deck's really sort of quite standard. Are going for DPE here, of course. Miracle of Fusion, going to bring out the Sunrise yet again. Going to tribute off 3, going into Plasma, and I believe we're nearing the end of the turn. Yeah, we are. He steals our Lovely. We're going to go for the Lady Labyrinth, beating out the DPE. I wanted him to do that, although my objective was him popping himself, not my... I didn't expect him to pop the Lovely, because now his Plasma is a little bit vulnerable to battle. But here, whatever works for you, buddy. So we've got like 1,000,000 cards in hand. We've got 1,000,000 cards. The only thing is, that's not always necessarily a good thing, because now our Frenzy isn't nearly as powerful. Now, some of our other cards don't work quite the way we would want them to, but we're going to simply make it work anyways. We are going to go for the Chandelier here. Chandelier dropping 2 cards. We're going to chain to that the Coup Clock. We might have done that the wrong way around, but what are you going to do? Fight me? So we needed to use these before the mask change resolves, sorry, because Dark Law is now on the field. So now we've got Big Welcome on board. Now we're going to set 5, summon 1. So now we're going to use the Big Welcome here. Big Welcome's going to summon out Lovely from the graveyard, bouncing it back to hand. We're going to use the Chandelier now. Chandelier then going to... So the reason we bounced it back to hand is, of course, we've got Plasma in the field, right? Plasma's a fucking problem. We really wanted to have this card in hand, though, so we can use it later on. We are forced to drop a bunch of cards out of our hand. That's totally fine. It is what it is. Main phase 1, then, our Plasma friend is going to try stealing our Coup Clock. We're going to chain to that the destructive Daruyuma Karma Cannon. So that's going to flip the whole board face down, and we needed to do it in main phase... So the timing on this was very important, because we needed to do it main phase 1 after he had made a play, so that he would be sacrificing priority on his plays here. So now that everything is gone, we can go for Frenzy, and of course, the one card he has in hand is Ash Blossom, but that's okay. We have Domain. Domain does the same job. We will simply make it work. We're going to go into Kentragina here now that the mask, the Dark Law is no longer on the field. That's okay. They're now going to start flipping up all their ship. Plasma then going to steal our Kentragina. Like I said, unfortunately, we don't have the materials we need because we drew all of our fucking cards. We drew them all. We had to drop cards off of our hand. Very unfortunate. Maxi actually worked against us here. They are going to go try to flip up for lethal here. We're going to go for the Ferret Flames. Ferret Flames is going to forcefully get rid of all of his monsters. They're going to go the Popper Welcome Labyrinth. That's totally fine. I don't really give a shit about that. They have to shuffle back everything into their deck so that the total attack points of all their monsters is less than my life points. Well, any one of their monsters was bigger than my life points. The reason we held off on Ferret Flame so long is I knew he was going to steal something for his Plasma, making his Plasma bigger than 2k, thus susceptible to the Ferret Flames. So it's a rough situation, and unironically, the the Maxi actually worked against us here. So we actually, with the fight, a pretty uphill battle, but now that we've got the momentum moving in our favor, we got rid of that Dark Law in particular. That Dark Law is a fucking threat. Now that we've gotten rid of it, we can start to sort of chillax, we can start to reclaim our advantage, reclaim game here. We're going to go for Call by the Grave, taking out the DPE in the draw phase, so he's not going to come back during standby. He does get to bring back something else, though, whatever. Shuffling back the Destiny Hero into his X deck. We're going to go Torby, dropping 2, setting Labyrinth. Labyrinth, of course, we're going to use the Coup Clock, summoning it back out to the field. Labyrinth, then we're going to flip it face up so that when we use our Big Welcome Labyrinth, we're able to use this spell card effect to pop the monster instead of using her effect right away, so we can preserve that for later if needed. Torby then and Chandelier both activating Engrave, and this is where the advantage starts. It just chains from here, and we start building up, building our castle, building our resources, and just winning the game. Luckily for us, our opponent's life points are pretty low, so normal summoning the Chandelier is enough for lethal. Increase in Grief doesn't matter. It just sits in the back row like a fucking dork and does nothing. So that was an interesting game. It was a Maxi is an interesting card in this deck. Maxi, of course, is a really good card in general, right? But its main benefit in this deck in particular is encouraging your opponent to stop playing the game. You don't actually want to draw a bunch of cards. Maybe 3 or 4. Perfect, right? anything more than 3 or 4, and you start risking the validity of some of your plays, right? That means that your frenzy's not always going to be alive, or your domain's not going to be great because you might have to drop a whole bunch of resources. It's just not fantastic to have a shitload of cards in your hand. It really isn't. So it put us in a very curious position. Most of the time when you use Max C, they simply either scoop or they don't make any plays and they don't give you any cards. That is ideal for Labyrinth. In this particular version, you don't want to have a shitload of cards. On this occasion, they did. They went for it. They just thought that their board was going to be strong enough, and by God, it nearly fucking was. So, good game overall. Let's get into game 3. Alright, getting into our third and final game here. Going first, we're going to go for Phyresia here, being met with Gamma of all things. Fair enough, Gamma is feigning its way around in this metagame apparently. We do lose our Phyresia, that is what it is. We're simply going to set 3 and pass, see what happens. They've got 4 cards left in hand, 5 now after the draw phase. We are going to go for Maxi because surely they don't have an out to Maxi, and they didn't. We're going to go Supreme King Z Arc here. So the way this works, basically, is that if at any point during this turn he activates a spell card, we basically get to get rid of this guy to tag him out into 4 of our big dragons. Now, what dragon specifically is it are we summoning? We're summoning the Crystal Clear Wing Synchro Dragon. Huge negates. We've got the Brave Eyes Pendulum Dragon. We have the Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. And there was one other one that I'm missing. Yes, the Dark Rebellion Exceed Dragon. So if they activate a spell card at any point during this turn, we get to summon out all 4 of those dragons. Pretty cool. So it really sort of puts the pressure on them. 3 Max C and 3 Z Arc, not even going to try playing the game. We are going to go for Big Welcome then. He's going to go Ash to our Big Welcome. We're going to go call bye to his Ash. That's totally fine, makes sense. So we are going to stop the Ash Blossom. Unfortunately, again, he didn't use the spell card, but using Big Welcome, we're able to shuffle back the Z Arc so that it doesn't actually, it doesn't net cost us any advantage, if I could speak. I love the Labyrinth. I'm going to pop a card in the hand. We're going to pop the Endymion. So we're playing against Pendulums, against Endymion, and we're playing an anti-spell card, almost like Flinkit, almost, if you want to look at it that way. We're actually going to use Lovely Labyrinth, setting it to the field again. I see the value in this card in this duel, so I'm going to keep on fucking playing it. 29 to the face, I'm going to pass. You want to play a spell card, you're going to be paying the fucking taxes. We're going to pay 2k, we're going to bring out Z Arc again. What are you going to do about it? So now we're going to wait, see what our opponent has to say to this. Main phase 1, they're going to go for Servant of Endymion. That's a spell card. We're going to banish Soul of the Supreme King to use its effect just to be met by an Ash Blossom. Big sad. Big sad right there. Unfortunately, our opponent was somewhat ready for Soul of the Supreme King. They just had it in hand this time. I guess they just didn't want to use it last turn. They're going to go Oracle of the Zephyra. That could be a bit of a pain in the ass. So Oracle of the Zephyr, we're going to bounce that shit back to hand because they can't activate this card more than once per turn. And of course, not being face up in the field, its effect will fizzle. So I was hoping that that would be enough to shut our opponent up, but they've got the Shadol, whatever the hell that says, in their hand. They're going to summon out the King Jackal to the field before linking off into Electromite. And here is where Pendulums start to go a little bit crazy. So they're going to pop a card, searching for Guitar. They're now going to use the Guitar here to discard a card, special summoning out another Symphonic Warrior, which special summons another Symphonic Warrior. Going into the Princess. Princess then bringing back Electromite, popping another card to draw another card, not once per turn, which is fucking nuts. Going into the Wheel. The Wheel has 3,000 attack points, going to flip up their monster, and as part of their DJ's effect, grabbing a card from deck, they're going to use it to special summon itself out to the field, summoning another monster, going into Denglong. This is a pretty fucking nuts strategy. This deck in particular was insane. I don't know what the hell this guy was cooking. I don't know what he was smoking, but whatever it was, I want some. Going Denglong, summoning out this again, and I just decide, you know what, this guy's gonna combo for the next 7 years. I'm good. I'm gone. So there you go. The deck isn't without its bricks. It's not without its bad hands. It's not without its counters. I wouldn't try to sell any deck that is impervious to interruption because number one, no deck is. And secondly, again, understanding the deck's weaknesses and understanding where it's good, where it's bad, what plays to make, what plays not to make is a very important part of the learning process of learning how to play it. And the deck building process, because eventually some of you guys are going to come at me with better versions of this deck, and that is exactly the idea. So you guys seeing the weaknesses can now formula, come up with responses to those weaknesses. You can let me know in the Discord or the comments if there is anything at all, but every deck will simply have its outs. You can't have a deck that doesn't have outs. So yeah, let's get into the deck profile. And this is the deck list. So, again, we've covered off some of the strengths and weaknesses and synergies and everything with the deck. Let's just go through the deck list here and we'll talk about each card individually. So of course we got the double Coup Clock. Being able to discard it to use cards, set trap cards during your opponent's turn is pretty fucking essential to making sure you've got the correct level of advantage to win you the game, right? Essentially. So Coup Clock, I think double, maybe even 3 of in most versions of Labyrinth is the correct way of playing it. I think playing 1 copy of Coup Clock, the days of 1 clock are gone. You really have to be playing around Bestials, you have to be playing around Call By. You can't just be having 1 copy of this card, for sure. And again, you want to see it in your opening hand. It is a very good card, especially alongside any of our furniture pieces. So, we have the double Coup Clock, triple Maxi, triple Ash Blossom, of course. Double Torby then, Torby limited to 2 now. So Torby and Chandelier, I'm going to talk about these two as a pair because they basically do the exact same fucking thing. And you can discard these cards or send them from the field to the graveyard to discard another card from your hand and set any Labyrinth trap card or spell or trap card directly from deck to field. So automatically, really, really good cards. Especially in tandem with the Coup Clock, because the way the Coup Clock works is that he can allow you to use a trap card that you set that turn by quick play discarding itself from hand. Now the thing is, you need to control a Labyrinth monster to do so, but this guy also takes care of that problem, because if you activate the effect of a Labyrinth monster that forces you to discard a card to use its effect, then this guy can special summon himself from the graveyard or add himself from grave to hand. So that takes care of that problem. So basically you would go Coup Clock, then you would go a furniture piece, and then the Coup Clock summons itself, and now you can use the Labyrinth trap that you just set to the field, even if it's not your turn. Your opponent could be going first doing this. So it gives you turn 0 plays, which is pretty fucking sick. And these cards all also recycle themselves. Again, we've already talked about the Coup Clock's recycling. Torby and Chandelier will bring themselves back from graveyard to, well, Chandelier to hand, Torby special summons to field, but from grave, whenever a monster leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap. Well, I wonder what that's going to cause. That's going to be your big welcome Labyrinth, obviously, right? So you go Coup Clock, then Torby or Chandelier, set big welcome. That summons your Coup Clock. Use the Coup Clock, use the big welcome, bounce the Coup Clock, summon the Lovely. That triggers Lovely to loop a card, that triggers Torby and or Chandelier to also bounce back to hand. So you're getting a shitload of advantage and beginning your loops right away. Turn 0 loops, which is pretty fucking sick. All of these cards, again, you got to play as many of them as you can for fucking sure. We got the triple Theresia here. Unfortunately, expensive card, I get it, it's a UR, but it is definitely mandatory to play at 3. On summon, you set a DINOMORPHIA trap directly from deck to the spell and trap card zone. That is very, very important. So this is your deck's primary normal summon. I know people want to say Ariana. Ariana's still good, but your deck's primary normal summon is definitely going to be Theresia. Basically setting Frenzy or Domain directly from the deck to field is pretty fucking important. You can also then, if you really wanted to, you could play DINOMORPHIA Brute in this particular list as well, because again, loopable. I just didn't want to risk it. I had more important things to do with my like Spur DINOMORPHIA monsters, i.e. the virus cards, so that I ended up not playing Brute, but you can definitely play Brute if you really, really wanted to, for sure. And Diplos is here for his name. Fuck this guy, fucking hate this card, but I have to play him. Ariana on summon will search your deck for a Labyrinth card, which is great. It can also, if a monster leaves the field by the effect of a normal trap, you can draw a card and then either special summon a fiend monster from hand or set a spell or trap card from hand. All really, really solid effects, especially considering you'll be special summoning this card directly from the deck to the field off of either Big Welcome or Welcome Labyrinth. So Ariana, very versatile card. You don't need more than 1 copy of it because you can get direct access to it if you need it. But it is a decent normal summon if you don't have Theresia as well. So you can adjust these ratios if you want. You want to play more Ariana, by all means. I just don't think more of it is necessary. One lovely Labyrinth, of course, protects all of your normal traps from monster effects. Your opponent cannot use monsters in response to normal traps. Very, very important part of the deck for fucking damn sure. The sooner you can put this card onto the field, the sooner you're able to start resolving Frenzy and Big Welcome and things like that with 0 risk, the sooner you're just going to start taking souls. For fucking damn sure. So this card is one of the biggest pieces of synergy between the two, and that's not even its whole effect. That's just the first part. Whenever this card's in the field, if another monster were to leave the field by the effect of a normal trap, you can either pop a card in your opponent's field or one in their hand at random. Really fucking good effect because you can start hand looping your opponent from turn 0, which is great. And lastly, you can also target any normal trap in your graveyard and set that card back to the field. That is especially useful considering the number of cards that we would like to reuse. We've got Ferret Flames, we've got Virus, we've got D-Barrier, we've got Soul of the Supreme King. All of these cards we would like to reuse. And the Daruma Cannon in particular, this card's fucking nuts. So yeah, the fact that it can recycle traps from the graveyard as well is very, very important. It gets to the point where if you don't want to play like 2 copies of Ferret Flames, you don't have to. You could like sub this out for another trap card, maybe a second Daruma Cannon. Maybe you really want to play fucking, I don't know, Ice Dragon Prism. Maybe you want to squeeze an Imperm in there. Imperm's a really good card to have in general, really as a cross-out target or otherwise. So you don't have to play 2 copies of Ferret Flames, we just were. But it doesn't matter what normal traps you play. Lovely Labyrinth, being able to recycle them means that you're just going to get recurring value out of them, which is insane. And lastly, for our monsters, we have Lady Labyrinth at the Silver Castle. Basically, so long as you have a set card, this card is untargetable and indestructible. Really fucking solid. 3k attack, 2900 defense, indestructible, untargetable. Sounds like Abramax to me. This shit's nuts. So, not only that, if this card is face up and either player were to activate a normal trap card, you can chain to that normal trap to set any normal trap directly from deck to field. Now that, of course, is an effect we're all very familiar with, but being able to set up, in addition to the regular bullshit, like the D-Barrier and the Karma Cannon, you're also able to now set Ferret Flames, DINOMORPHIA Frenzy, Deck Devastation Fires. All of these cards that were maybe not very optimal choices in the past, now broaden massively the number of options your Lady Labyrinth has available to it. So that's really good. And it can also special summon itself from hand during a turn in which you activate either a trap card or a Labyrinth monster's effect. We have Labyrinth. If you activate a Labyrinth trap card, pop a card in the field. If you activate a non-Labyrinth normal trap, you get to bring back a Fiend monster from hand or grave. Really excellent way of recycling your lovely Labyrinth at the Silver Castle. Very important card. Double Callby and single Crossout, more so to stop Ash Blossom than it is to stop Maxi in this deck, but again, both are very solid targets. Deck Devastation Virus. Okay. You can cut Crossout. One of the reasons we keep Crossout in the deck is because the mirror match, right? So even if you're not going to be stopping an Ash Blossom, which you absolutely must, so Crossout is automatically good because it stops Ash Blossom. But even apart from that, you can use this card in the mirror match. You can stop an opponent's furniture piece. You can stop an opponent's lady. You can stop a coup clock, anything like that. So Crossout is really good in the mirror match as well. And the mirror match is not an easy matchup by any means. Labyrinth, I've talked about this in tons of videos, requires an entirely different style of play. So being able to remove one of their tools right off the bat is usually a very good step towards winning. Alright, so now we got Deck Devastation Virus. Tribute a dark monster that has 2000 or more attack points. All monsters with 1500 attack or less on your opponent's field or hand are instantly destroyed, and every time they draw for the next 3 turns, you look at what they draw, and if it happens to be a monster with 1500 attack or less, instantly destroyed. No hand traps for you, sir. You're not playing the game. No sprites for you. You're not playing the game. Ferret Flames. So, basically, your opponent has to shuffle monsters they control back into the deck until their total attack points of monsters on the field is 0, right? So basically, if you have 2000 or 1000 life points, because you will be very, very low in life points, if you have like 2000 life points, your opponent has to shuffle monsters back into their field, so the total number of attack points in their field is less than 2000. If none of their monsters have less than 2000 attack points, they have to get rid of their whole field. So Ferret Flames is automatically really good because your life points are going to be super low all of the time. D-Barrier, you get to choose Ritual, Fusion, Synchro Exceed, or Pendulum, and for the rest of that turn, that card type has its effects negated and cannot be special summoned. Brutal card, this will win you games by itself. We got Domain and Frenzy, both of which are our fusion trap cards for DINOMORPHIA. Domain will use monsters from your hand or deck. Frenzy will use 1 monster from your deck and 1 monster from your extra deck. So Frenzy is a little bit more versatile. However, if you're in a position where you've drawn too many of your DINOMORPHIA monsters, then Domain is definitely essential to have. That's why we're playing the one-off Diplos. Otherwise, we would just cut Diplos and cut Domain and play just Frenzy, which is a valid way of playing it, don't get me wrong. 100%. But if you open 2 for Inzia, game over. If you open 2 for Inzia, sorry, you can't play. And I don't like that. I would rather just play the 1 brick and the 2 extra starters. I don't mind doing that at all. We have Solo the Supreme King. Again, pay half your life points, summon out Supreme King Z Arc from your extra deck, and if your opponent, while you control Z Arc, activates a spell card, you can banish this card from your graveyard and the Supreme King from your field to special summon out a Pendulum Dragon, an Exceed Dragon, a Synchro Dragon, and a Fusion Dragon from your deck, from your hand, deck, extra deck, or graveyard. So that is your, let's go over our targets. Starving Venom Fusion Dragon. We've got the Brave Eyes Pendulum Dragon. We've got the Crystal Clearwing Synchro Dragon, and we have the Dark Rebellion Exceed Dragon. So those are the targets that we have in mind. Those are, as far as I can see, the best targets available to us at the moment. The Exceed target, of course, doesn't really... There are better monsters, but the problem is you're not able to give it Exceed material, which kind of sucks. So the main monster you're going to be using to actually counter your opponent will be the Clear Wing Synchro Dragon, of course. This card is fucking nuts, which we'll get to it when we're talking about the extra deck. But this card being able to just spam out 4 huge fucking dragons will win games. 100%. You don't have to play this. If you don't have this, maybe you don't have the monsters to use in the extra deck, don't worry about it. Cut it. It's fine. It's totally optional. It's just a good way to lower your life points, and it's a funny interaction you can have with your opponent. Just in general, it's pretty funny, it's pretty cool, it's pretty based, but you don't have to play it, right? If you don't have the materials, don't fucking worry about it. It's all good. Welcome Labyrinth. We're only playing 1 of this card. We don't really like using this card in this deck because it does lock you into Fiends until the end of your next turn. So, which kind of sucks. I don't really like this card too much in this deck, but it's too valuable not to play, right? Because again, even by itself, the Labyrinth cards can win games. So having it at 1 means that you can loop it if necessary, you can use it if necessary, but you're not dependent upon this card in this particular build at all. We got the Karma Cannon, flip everything in the field face down, and anything not face down is sent to the graveyard, i.e. Link monsters. Big Welcome Labyrinth. So Big Welcome Labyrinth is very interesting. This is one of the big cards that makes the deck work. Of course, we're all very, very familiar with this card. Basically, you special summon a Labyrinth monster from your hand, deck, or graveyard, then return the monster in the field back to the hand. That is what triggers off your lovely loops and everything like that, and your massive amount of recursion. So Big Welcome Labyrinth is like the beating heart of the Labyrinth deck. That is... There's no doubt about that. This card can also banish itself from the graveyard to return either a monster you control back to your hand, or if you have a level 8 or higher Fiend on board, you can send an opponent's card back to hand. So it's got Disruption, it starts loops, it starts recursion, everything about this card is just nuts. You have to play this at 3. For sure, in any Labyrinth deck that you build, this card is automatically at 3. For fucking damn sure. Getting into the extra deck, so we have the double Kentragina, double Stealth Bird, and double Rexterm. So Stealth Bird is purely here as fusion material off of Frenzy. That is it. No more discussion is needed. Kentragina is usually how you're going to be getting into Rexterm. So while DINOMORPHIA Frenzy can directly summon out Rexterm if possible, Domain cannot. And even if you do go through Frenzy, you usually want to go through Kentragina first, because Kentragina's effect allows you to take a DINOMORPHIA normal trap card from your graveyard, and you will then use that card. By banishing it, you apply its effect again. So you can banish essentially the Frenzy or the Domain from the graveyard to apply its effects again, having your life points, fusion summoning again. So the whole idea behind that is that by the time you get into Rexterm, regardless of which of the 2 traps you used, your life points are going to be at 2,000 or lower, which is going to floodgate the majority of the board. Because what does Rexterm do? Well, we all know what Rexterm does. Your opponent can't activate the effects of monsters who have more attack points than you have life points. It's that simple. You're going to be at most 2,000 life points after you resolve your DINOMORPHIA cards, which locks out the majority of the game. If you've played any other card or taken any damage prior to that, then that's just gravy. You're going to be even lower, locking out even more of the game. Rexterm's sick. It can also pay half your life points to reduce the attack points of all of your opponent's current monsters on the board down to your life points, which means you can basically turn in everything into 1,000 attack points, which is great. That's especially useful because you will be rather low on life points, so if your opponent wants to go battle phase and decides to do anything funky, trying to swing over any of your monsters for a game, immediately reduce them down. It also, funnily, brings the monsters of attack points of monsters who have less attack points than yours up to your life points. So that means that they're no longer immune to Rexsturm's negate, which is pretty sick. So yeah, every part of this guy's effect is awesome. Love Rexsturm. We have, so this is the only one of the dragons I'm going to talk about. The other ones are just here because of their names and they're capable of being summoned. This is the only one that actually does something. So once per turn, when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can activate this. This card becomes unaffected by the activated effects of opponent's monsters and gains attack equal to that monster's attack. So it becomes basically unaffected by activated monster effects and gets huge. That's the idea. Once per turn, if a spell or trap is activated, you can negate that spell or trap and then destroy that card. So it's like a spell trap negate while being unaffected by activated monster effects. What's not to love? Of course, it is absolutely huge. You've got a bunch of other really fucking huge monsters as well. The idea is you're just going to use these dragons, overwhelm your opponent whenever you do manage to resolve that effect of Soul. And lastly, we've got Chaos Angel. I mean, I say lastly, it's basically lastly. We've got Chaos Angel, which you can summon using a furniture piece and either one of your Labyrinth cards or your Rexsturm in a pinch. Maybe even your any of your fusion dragons as well. All of those can be used with a furniture piece to go in the Chaos Angel. On summon, you get to banish a card, and while it's in the field, your monsters won't be destroyable by battle because you're only using darks for their summon. So yeah, Chaos Angel's pretty sick. And then we got Muckraker and Goddess, just for generic links. Muckraker brings fiends back from grave. Goddess is Goddess, we all know what that does. And that's the whole deck. So that is everything in regards to Lab DINOMORPHIA. It's a very fun way of building the deck. If you have either side of this deck, I would definitely recommend building it. Because number one, Lab, I personally like Lab. I know Lab catches a lot of flack. I know not a lot of people like it, but I'm a huge fan. I like playing Lab. Fight me, right? I don't give a shit. And I love playing DINOMORPHIA. I love playing Dinos in general, and I will be playing more Dinos over the next coming days. So if you want to see more Dino action, maybe some pure Dino action, then of course subscribe. You know, you can catch these videos as they're coming out every single day. And that's pretty much everything I have to say on the list today. If you've got any suggestions, any questions, you've got the comments, you've got the Discord in the description, whatever suits you best. Subscribe if you haven't, like if you haven't, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.